Hello, and welcome to the next video on mobile repairing. So far, we've been trying to understand the different components of a mobile phone, the internal components of the mobile phone, and very specifically the internal components placed on a PCB. In this video, we will try and understand how we can test or trace a PCB's circuit system. Testing or tracing a PCB circuit system essentially is to find out whether the power supply is properly reaching different parts or different components of a mobile phone. And as you all know, we will be using the multimeter to try and test this whole process. So once we switch on the multimeter, we place it in the beep or continuity testing position, and we'll touch the probes to check it up. You can hear the beep, which means the continuity testing position, and the probes are in proper condition. And using these probes, we will be able to test the circuitry in a mobile PCB. So first of all, we will check the negative line in a mobile PCB. As you all know, power comes with a positive and a negative line. The negative line is what is also called the ground line or the base line. And this is signified by the yellow strip that you see all across the mobile PCB. So this entire yellow strip that you see right now, brightly colored strip, is what signifies the negative line in the mobile phone. In order to test this negative line, you can place the probes, the tips of the probes, in multiple points across this entire circuit and check whether the continuity is intact or not. So let's try and first check the probes and try and start off with the tracing of the negative line in the mobile PCB. So every board typically will have a very prominent line like this, the negative line or the grounding line as we call it. In order to test it, you place the probe on any 2 points on the grounding line. And you can hear the beep. So when we do this testing, you'll be able to check whether the circuit is broken at any point in time. If it's a closed circuit, which means it's perfectly all right, all the points are connected very well and the negative line is intact. If it's an open circuit, you will not hear a beep sound when you place the probe at the respective point. For example, if these 2 points are connected, you will hear the beep sound. If not, you will not be able to hear a beep sound in these points. So by segmenting the entire negative line into smaller parts, you will be able to exactly trace where the breakage is in the entire negative line. Once the breakage is identified, you will then need to use the jumper setting option at the jumper wire to try and ensure that the wire is or the circuit is reconnected and is properly functioning thereafter. You will learn about jumper settings and how do we do the jumper settings in one of the future videos. For now, it's enough for you to understand that this is the process for identifying where the circuit is broken in the negative line of a mobile PCB. Now this is how we check the negative line. Now let's move on to the next part, which is a positive line. Now, positive line cannot be very clearly seen like the negative line. The positive line is typically connected to very specific components or ICs and supplies power to each of those components. So it's not very easy to identify and it's not open, unlike the negative line. Hence, you need to ensure that you are able to trace the positive line effectively after reading through the circuit diagram of the respective mobile PCB. Unless you have a circuit diagram in hand, you may not exactly know how the positive line is weaved into the PCB or into the specific components of the PCB. So please ensure that you pick up the respective circuit diagram of the mobile phone that you're working on, understand the connections that exist in it, and then try and trace the connections. Now, one of the common things that we can do to check the positive line is to touch the positive terminal of the battery connector to this component. Now, this component is a very common component that you will find in most mobile PCBs. And this is a common place where the positive line is usually connected. You may be able to identify that in different mobile PCBs. Once you identify that, if you're able to detect that, you will be able to touch the positive tip connector of the battery connecting point to the specific component, and you can check whether the positive line is intact or not. That if there is a breakage here, you may not be able to connect the jumper from the battery connector. So you use the back end of the battery connector, as you can see here. There's a small point at the back of the battery connector, which is connected to the front of the battery connector. So you place the one end of the tip on the back side of the battery connector point and the other on the other connecting point, and check whether you're able to get a beep. Now, here you will be able to connect the jumper clearly without any issues. Like I just said before, the back point is connected to the power point. You can hear the beep. And from here, you can connect the jumper wire to the next point for you to be able to take the positive line ahead. But you need to ensure that you read the circuit diagram clearly before you attempt any of this. If you make a mistake in this, the power supply in your mobile PCB could be disrupted or can lead to faulty power supply, which can even damage the components or the mobile PCB. Hence, you need to exercise extreme caution when you are trying to check any of these components internally, or when you are connecting any of the power connecting points within the PCB. So in short, the first step that you would do while you're testing or placing the circuit in a mobile phone is to understand whether the power supply system is intact. And to check that, the first thing that you would do is check the negative line or the ground line, which is signified by the yellow strip that you see all through. You can place the probes of the multimeter at 2 different points or smaller segments of each of these and try and see if the connectivity is intact. Once that is done, you can move on to the positive terminal of the battery connecting point and try and place it at the respective positive terminals of each of the components to check whether the connectivity to the positive terminal from the positive terminal of the battery connector to the individual positive terminals of components are intact or not. If these two are intact, then the entire circuitry in your mobile phone is working absolutely fine. Once you do this checking, you can then move on to do further detailed investigation of the mobile phone into specific components or the functions of or the workings of specific components as you keep working on your or repairing the mobile phone that you have. We hope you have understood how this entire tracing and testing process works. And we hope that you will continue to keep learning more about how to repair these mobile phones or components in these mobile phone